All right, good morning. I made the decision to drive all the way to the gym before refueling. So it's saying I've got 16 miles left to empty. I'm afraid, gentlemen, I've failed. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to 800 miles on one tank. I think it's possible. If I was driving in normal mode, not in eco mode. I wasn't really hyper miling per se, but that's a hell of a rating. That's a real number. That's 775.1 miles worth of driving. Now, I've got 27.1 mpg. Now, if I switch to trip 2, this is basically 9,000 miles. I've got 9,000. So it's basically since I own the truck. That's lifetime. And, there's been weeks where I am just in sport mode flooring it. So that's decently trying to get good gas mileage without going crazy. Normal is right around 24.5, 25. Now I'm not going to try to drive home and be a hero here, but I'm going to go and fill up after this and calculate these miles out and see how far off this trip computer is and see what the actual mileage is. And this time I'm going to fill up with regular. And I'm probably going to try to do this again because this is addicting. Trying to get as good a mileage as possible. And it's going to be interesting to see how different the mileage is on regular as opposed to 93, which is what I was running this tank on. So yeah, I'm gonna pause it here, try to go get less fat real quick, and then I'll be back with you. All right, here we are at the gas station. What I ended up with, 27.1 miles per gallon, 781.3 miles. Look at the electric miles on this trip. Real number right there. Trip computer is saying 10 miles left on the range. So I believe this truck has a 30.6 gallon tank, 30.6 gallons. So it's going to be interesting to see what it fills up with. I'm here at a mobile station, not the cheapest gas. However, I am putting in regular this time. So this is where gas stations get you. Look at that, almost $1 more per gallon for super. I never get gas at this mobile station when I'm putting super in, but regular, it's about the same price. So we're gonna go ahead and do the fancy decompression. I'm gonna turn the truck off and we're gonna fill the tank. God, this pump is going past 100. All right, so it clicked at 29.452. Wow, so I may have been able to make this. The pump clicked off at 29.452 gallons, and I'm at 781.3 miles. I'm gonna do the math here real quick. Wow. So that came out to 26.5 miles per gallon. That is absolutely unbelievable. Now, a little worse than the truck predicted or calculated. The truck was at 27.1, actual mileage, 26.5. So I can't remember right now. It was like 781 miles I went on 29.45 gallons right there. That is unbelievable. So by my calculations, if I wasn't such a wuss, I could have gone 811 miles on a tank with that miles per gallon. That is so freaking cool. That's the actual range I got on my truck driving normally, day to day, with a little bit of consideration for gas mileage. The truck's rated at 24. I don't know. Actually, this truck's rated at 23. I don't know why they derated it from 24 to 23, because that is a real number. And by the way, I'm gonna try this. I have it in eco mode right now. I don't think this makes a difference. I think this just kind of does the throttle modulation for you. I mean, it's not like putting in eco mode is doing anything special other than adjusting throttle response, in my opinion. I don't seem to notice that the idle shuts off any sooner. I don't think it goes into electric driving mode any sooner. Now with sport mode, I will say, the only other mode I've used really is sport mode, eco mode, and normal mode. When you start the truck up, it's in normal mode. Usually, it'll ask you briefly if you want to go back into the previous mode that you were in. So if you're in sport mode and you shut the truck off, it'll ask you for a few seconds, do you want to go back into sport mode? But it'll always default to normal mode. So that's what I drive around in. And that's, 26.5 miles per gallon, normal mode. Driving around, suburban driving. I may have had a couple miles on the highway, but that was a really, really, really good test. That was a really good test. 93 octane. Driving normally. And guys, I drive up and down a mountain every day, at least 2 or 3 times a day on average. I have to drive up a mountain and then back down the mountain, of course, to get to my house. I work in a valley, and I have to drive up the mountain, down the mountain, into the valley to work, and then up and down again. At least twice I'm going over this mountain on the way to work. So it's not like I'm in Orlando, Florida, or you're driving around and there's not a hill to be seen. Northeastern United States is hilly, hilly, hilly. Really cool part of the state, part of the country. But as far as gas mileage goes, you've got hot in the summer, you've got cold in the winter, you've got hills, you've got valleys, you've got traffic lights. I mean, it's not highway, it's not city, it's right in the middle. I don't think this is optimal for gas mileage. And the only reason I'm saying that is because that is definitely it's just a real number. And I'm really happy to see that the trip computer was pretty much bang on. I mean, half a mile per gallon off or so, that's reasonable. I hate when I see trip computers that are like 4 miles per gallon off. They say you're getting 30, you're getting 26. That's a bummer. That's just a real bummer. I'm curious to know how they even calculate this. I'm curious to know how they, measure the fuel coming out of the injectors, or measure the fuel coming from the pump? I don't know. Or is it all just a guess based on throttle response and load under the engine, etc.? Somebody mentioned this in the comments the other day, but I really would be curious to see if they made a hybrid truck. I don't think they'd call it a power boost, but if they made a hybrid truck, F150 with the 2.7 motor instead of the 3.5, I think the mileage for the 3.5, I believe, is 17 city, 23 highway. I believe that's the mileage. And for the 2.7, I think it's 18 city, 24 highway. And I think it actually gets better mileage than that based on some of the reviews I've seen. I've never actually driven a 2.7 other than test driving a Bronco, but in an F-150, I mean, the Bronco had some nut to it. That 2.7 is a hell of a motor, and it's super efficient. Like I've mentioned previously, it's packed with technology. It's super powerful. It's got torque instantly. And if you can't see, neither can I, by the way. I'm just kind of driving here. The 2.7 is packed with power. It's super efficient. It's torquey. As far as the daily driver goes, it's a pleasure to drive because it's effortless. And I think if they combine that with this electric motor, I think this is a 1 kilowatt hour battery. If they made like a 5 kilowatt hour battery, maybe like an 80 horse electric motor instead of a 40, so the power was comparable, I wouldn't even care if it was the same price. I wouldn't care if the drivetrain was the same price, just had a slightly smaller gas engine, slightly bigger electric engine. same horsepower, same torque, maybe even a little less. Again, the truck has way more power than it needs. You're talking about a 30 plus mile per gallon truck easily. And now we're not talking about 811 miles per gallon. Now we're talking about 1,000 or 811 miles on a tank. Now per gallon, now we're talking 1,000 miles plus per tank in a full-size truck with tons of power. And you're getting 30s miles per gallon in a gas truck, gas electric truck, forget diesel. And let's take it a step further. Let's get really crazy. Why in God's name don't we have a pickup truck equivalent of what the Chevy Volt was? The Chevy Volt was the absolute best car, in my opinion, that Chevy ever made as far as a commuter car. The best of both worlds. You've got an electric car, an EV, a full EV car. I think the last generation of Volt had 53 miles of electric range. Pretty much perfect for 90% of people commuting. 10 miles in, 10 miles back, you can commute to work twice and not have to plug it in if you wanted to. Or you drive the thing, you put gas in it, and just drive it like a normal car because it's got a generator. Why in God's name don't they have a full-size pickup truck with 50 miles of range and a diesel generator? Electric pickup truck, diesel generator, full EV. There was an episode of Top Gear where they actually tested and proved it's a more efficient way to get energy out of diesel, to run it through an electric drive system and operate the diesel motor as a generator charging the battery rather than powering the transmission and the wheels directly from the diesel motor. Why don't we have a vehicle like that? We could be getting 40 miles per gallon, 50 miles per gallon, theoretically unlimited miles per gallon if you're just willing to plug the thing in, or you can drive it like a normal truck. I don't know why that's not here, because they had it, Chevy had it with the Volt, and they abandoned it. That would have been such a cool truck. Again, for what we have now, I don't know. Obviously there's a reason why they did what they did. This is still a great truck. Great miles per gallon, 26.5 miles per gallon in a truck, for God's sakes. My Elantra got 35 miles per gallon. We're starting to get to the point where it's not too far off in a full-size truck, which is super cool. Super, 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 super cool. So I'm gonna run this tank. I'm gonna do my best to not hit boost. I'm probably not gonna drive in eco mode because it really is just, I can't be bothered to click the thing left 3 times. I don't think it makes a difference anyways. But anyways, I wussed out. I had it in the bag, boys. I couldn't quite do it. I didn't have the stones. I should have brought an extra gas can with me and gone for the 800 miles. I couldn't do it. Had it. 811 potential miles based on the miles per gallon calculated. I put in 29.452 gallons of gas. The capacity is 30.6. I had a gallon left over. I only had 19 miles to go or so. I had it in the bag and I wussed out. Maybe this will be the time. I haven't seen a video of someone doing it yet, so I'm sure somebody has. But it would be cool to do it. It takes so much self-control because all I want to do is put my foot down, listen to the turbos, rip the truck a little bit, but at the same time, this is still super addicting to see what kind of mileage this is capable of. I don't know who tested this truck with the EPA, because that is a real number. Like I said, not 24, not 23, for God's sakes. 26.5 miles per gallon is what I got. Talk to you later.